What up, nerds? Welcome back. My name is Leslie, and today on the Nerdy Narrative, I want to talk about Dungeon Crawler Carl by Matt Dinniman. I have been absolutely obsessed not only with this book, but the subsequent books in the series that I've already binged. Spoiler alert, I'm going to finish the third book today, and I will immediately start the fourth book. I'm not alone. So many of you out there have already read this series, or like me, you've heard about all of the hype recently and you're jumping on the wagon. But for those of you who haven't heard of this wonderful series, let me tell you a little bit about it. See if I can't entice you to pick it up, which you should. You definitely should. If you like LitRPG, if you like progression fantasy, if you have ever played any type of tabletop game like Magic the Gathering, Dungeons and Dragons, video games, I'm telling you, this series was written for us. It is absolutely wonderful. It is dumb as hell, but I promise you, you are going to laugh. Every single book in this series has had one or two moments that I have just laughed uncontrollably, enjoyed it so much that I have rewound and played the same portion or chapter multiple times. And yes, I said listen, the audiobooks for this series are a must. If you're not a fan of audiobooks, just do me this one favor and try the audiobook for this series. I promise you it will pay off as far as your enjoyment. Now, once I started listening to the audiobook, I'm also reading them on my Kindle. All of the books in the series that are out so far are in the Kindle Unlimited subscription. Once I got all of the voices that this narrator does in my head really good, now when I sit down and read on my Kindle, I'm able to read it in his voices, which segue into the audiobook narrator. Jeff Hayes is amazing. I've watched a couple of interviews where he talked about how he got to narrate this book, very interesting story, and how it was that he started and has grown his own business, and he offers an alternative to Audible. He's got like 200 titles, worked with a lot of self-published authors. I'm going to have both Matt Dinniman and Jeff Hayes listed in the description below. In addition to their website, Soundbooth Theater also has a YouTube channel, which I'll have linked as well. Now, for those of you who have not heard of this series, or you've heard about it, but you just weren't quite sure if it was worth the hype, let me see what I can do to change that. Dungeon Crawler Carl is a thrilling, darkly humorous lit RPG novel set in a post-apocalyptic world. This wildly popular, not to mention incredibly addictive story follows Carl, a former Coast Guard veteran who, after breaking up with his girlfriend, is left caring for her show cat, Princess Donut. Things take a surreal turn when aliens invade Earth, destroy all man-made structures, and force the surviving humans into a deadly intergalactic game show. And so it is that Carl and Princess Donut have to navigate through this video game-like dungeon, all of which is being done while being broadcast to an alien audience numbering in the trillions. This book is so much fun. It blends elements of fantasy, survival, and satire with quirky, imaginative obstacles like exploding goblins, or my personal favorite, drug-dealing llamas. And all of these things together just make this book action-packed and an unpredictable adventure. A fun fact about the Dungeon Crawler Carl series that I didn't discover until I had already listened to the first two books: this is a self-published series, or at least the first 6 books have been. Recently, Matt Dinniman sold the first 3 books to Ace Publishing, which is an imprint of Penguin Random House. Coincidentally, today, August 27th, is when the first book being published by Ace is released. I'll have it linked in the description below. I would love to hear your feedback. A lot of people like the self-published covers better than the ones that Ace came up with. I actually like the one by Ace. To me, it has a lot of fun Easter eggs on the Ace cover for those of us that are fans of the series. Y'all will have to go down in the comments and let me know which of the two you prefer, and I'd love to hear your reasoning why. The original cover isn't terrible, but to me, it just looks a little hokey. And I mean, I know I'm saying that about this series that is absolutely hysterical, and it is such a dumb premise. But oh my gosh, it is so much fun. I don't think I have ever laughed out loud while listening to a book more. The only other series that has made me laugh almost this much out loud is the Stranger Times series by C.K. McDonald, which I would definitely recommend if you love this style of narration by Jeff Hayes. Another bit of fun news for you to keep in the back of your head while you're reading this book is that recently Universal Studios and Seth MacFarlane's company have obtained the rights to make a series of TV series from Dungeon Crawler Carl. I am over the moon. I cannot wait to see this in action. My husband and I have been going back and forth as to who we think should be cast in the different roles. As far as the character of Carl, for some reason he seems to think that Seth MacFarlane is going to play this role. I think Seth is going to be voicing some of the mobs and possibly Princess Donut. I think Chris Pratt would make an amazing Carl, though he is a little bit too old for the role, but you know, it's showbiz. They're always using technology to age people down. I think they can pull it off. Again, hit me up in the comments down below and who you think would make a great Carl, and go ahead and tell me about some of the rest of them as well. Ooh, Seth MacFarlane as the AI. Okay, you know what? Let's segue into my favorite characters from the first book. Without a doubt, Carl and Donut are my absolute favorite characters as of the first book. They're a package deal, though. They work off of each other with the humor, the witty comebacks, the banter, the way in which they communicate with each other without saying a word, just the looks and how it is that Matt Dinniman is able to write those interactions are just to die for. But I can't lie to y'all, the AI is my favorite character, and spoiler alert, through book 3, the AI is still my favorite character. And it's in the way in which it's written. As I mentioned when I was talking about the book description, this is a LitRPG novel, meaning that takes place in a video game world. But I would say it's LitRPG light. In this particular installment, Matt Dinniman does not overrun you with stats and numbers. There is a little bit of that, but for those of you who haven't played that style of game, it's not going to be too much for you or make you bored and glassy-eyed over those sections. And it's because Matt Dinniman writes it in such an entertaining fashion. As Carl and Donut are entering into the dungeon and making their way through the level and just getting the information about how this is going to work going forward, as is any time you're playing a game, as you explore things, as you pick up things, as you accidentally perhaps kill a mob, you get experience, you get achievements, you get rewards. I'm telling y'all, ever since my husband and I have been listening to this book, I have been narrating our lives in achievements and awards. Once you hear the AI do this, it's stuck in your head. We'll get into more about that in just a minute. We're still talking about characters. So I think what goes hand in hand in this particular novel, besides loving the characters, it's also enjoying the mobs that Matt Dinniman creates to populate this first floor of the dungeon. There are goblins, fire-breathing monkeys, brindle grubs, slimes. My personal favorite, as I've already mentioned, are the bad llamas. Where this book really shines, at least in the first one for me, is anytime Carl and Donut discover something new and the AI will let them inspect it and it gives them the description. I just want to share the one for bad llamas. I rewound this particular part 5 times and listened to it. I was out walking with Chris around the lake and I literally stopped and had my hands on my knees just dying laughing. So bad llamas. It's a llama, but it's bad. If he were human, he'd be covered in prison tattoos and would be hanging out in front of the Circle K hitting on 14-year-old girls. They might be willing to sell you something if you have good stuff to trade. You don't want to get hit by their spit. I was absolutely dying. Oh, there was one more on this level I loved. Danger dingoes. Not the cuddly little animals that go around stealing babies either. Reading about the bad llamas also gave me the opportunity to share with you just a bit of the humor that's involved in this book. While there is a lot of humor, There is a little serious thread in here that I began to pick up on, that there's something more to this story than just giving us a hilarious lit RPG. As Carl and Donut are making their way through the dungeon, just certain things that the NPC characters say and different mobs, Carl is starting to get the idea that there's something more going on here, that some of these non-playable characters aren't here because they choose to be. So there is a mystery there that Carl is picking up on, and something to make you, the reader, more interested in continuing the story. Probably goes without saying at this point, I gave this book 5 stars. When I tell y'all I went directly into book 2, I was actually out walking with my husband. I knew that I was going to finish book 1. I'd already downloaded the second book and I immediately started listening to it. I know there's been a couple of times already in this video I've just talked about this book is dumb as hell, but when it comes to the alien invasion leading to the eradication of the human population trope, Matt Dinniman did put his own unique twist onto that, which I really enjoyed. There is not one single thing I could find to complain about with this book. And that is also speaking for all 3 books that I have read in the series so far. Before I had even completed Dungeon Crawler Carl, I had the suspicion that this might just be my favorite book of the year. And now that I have finished it and I've continued it, I really think this is going to be my favorite series of 2024. It is definitely in my top 5 series of all time favorites. And Jeff Hayes, he wins hands down at Audiobook Narrator of the Year. And I believe he's going to dethrone Stephen Pacey for me. Y'all, if you have listened to the Dungeon Crawler Carl series, hit those comments. Would you agree? Or do you just put him on the level of Stephen Pacey? Or is Stephen Pacey still the GOAT? I would love to hear your thoughts on that down in the comments below. But that is going to do it for me today, talking about Dungeon Crawler Carl by Matt Dinniman. Just as a quick reminder for those of you who prefer physical reading only, the traditionally published edition is out today from Ace Publishing. I'll have that linked in the description below. You can still get the self-published versions. I'm not sure, but the best place to look is Matt Dinniman's website, which I will also have linked down below. Thank you all so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. I hope if you haven't read this book or series, it's now on your TBR. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll catch you in the next one.